I want to talk about fascism. Yale professor Jason Stanley has a new book out called How Fascism Works, The Politics of Us and Them. He also has a new article in The Guardian, and it's titled, America is Now in Fascism's Legal Phase. Here to talk about fascism, how it works, and America entering the legal phase of fascism is lawyer and Green Party nominee for president of the United States, David Cobb. Hello, David Cobb.
Howdy, Feldo. And for those of you who are watching the video of it live, I'm going to show you the shirt that I'm sporting. I'm going to ask Feldo to read it out loud for the recording and for those who are only listening to the podcast. Can you read it, Feldman?
Fascism, the merger of state and corporate power, usually together with extreme nationalism.
So, friends, I want to start with a recognition that the fascist philosopher and authoritarian Benito Mussolini famously said, fascism more properly should be defined as corporatism because it merges the economic power of our national corporations with the military might of the state. And remember, Mussolini, for all his horrors, was also a philosopher. He was a fascist proponent, proud of it, and talked about merging large transnational corporations. And remember, this was in the early stages of industrialism and the beginning of the corporate state with the military might of the nation. And I would argue that we need to have clarity that fascism is not merely totalitarianism. You know, Feldo, I was one who I used to say to people when they would casually toss around fascism, like, for example, you know, white racist cop murders a black kid. Horrible murder, needs to be, fought against. It needs to be called out. But that's not necessarily fascism. That's a brutal murder, to be sure, right? But It's not fascism. Or, you know, my racist uncle at Thanksgiving, or actually I had two racist uncles at Thanksgiving, making a horrible anti-Semitic or racist or sexist comment. It's horrible, it's racist, it's anti-Semitic. That's not fascism either.
Christian Smalls protesting outside Amazon, getting arrested by New York City police.
So there you go, closer to fascism. Why? Because you're beginning to see a state apparatus making a political judgment call around what Smalls is doing. And that's why I'm so glad that you've invited me to have this conversation, because remember, I said I used to be the one to say, stop casually tossing around the word fascism. It's a powerful word, and it should only be reserved to talk about it. Fascism is a political economic system. It requires a mass movement to be able to actually institute it. And it's time to start saying the F word in public. And that is, we are actually witnessing this Republican Party as a fascist political formation. And again, you will never hear me say something good about Ronald Reagan's policies or George Bush's policies. I'm not one of those, oh, remember the good old days. Screw those guys, right? Their policies were abhorrent. They were absolutely anti-union, anti-worker, anti-black. Like, you know, I'm not going to romanticize them. But they were different. Like what we're seeing today is fundamentally different. You're literally seeing the big lie. Like if Goebbels could only imagine what Trump is successfully doing with the lie that Trump somehow got cheated out of an election. Like it's been litigated up and down. Every Secretary of State, every place, they haven't won a single one of their recount lawsuits, right? Like it is objectively, without any doubt at all, Trump lost that election, and now 70% of people who self-identify as Republicans believe that Donald Trump won the election. The big lie is working. We are no longer in a place where you can literally even have a debate with people about what objective reality is. Climate denialism, COVID denialism, now electoral denialism. Like, we are literally occupying two different worlds. And one world is such that the ideology is so perverse and so thorough, literally, that any objective data or evidence that you present is simply denounced as fake news, right? So we literally somewhere between 35 and 40% of the American people, we cannot even have an honest conversation because we can't even be we don't even have a
it's a cult, and it's arguing religion. It's like, if you believe that Christ is your Lord and Savior, God bless you. There's nothing I can do to talk you out of that. If you believe Moses, heard directly from God, this is the Torah, these are the laws, there's nothing I can do to talk you out of that.
Correct.
And if you believe Trump was cheated out of an election, to our new listeners, you, as you've pointed out, do not fetishize, as you say, electoral politics. You do not, you believe in voting, you believe in running for office. You ran for office. You were Ralph Nader's campaign director in Texas when he ran for president. But you don't think everything begins and ends with politics.
With electoral politics.
Electoral politics. But this is something different. You're saying we've entered a legal phase of fascism. What was the enabling act? You're a lawyer. What was the enabling act with Hitler?
Listen, remember that Adolf Hitler actually used the electoral process as well, and the beer hall push, and and
the legal system. He wasn't against the law. Hitler.
How about that? And
was not against the law. I'm sorry.
And neither is Trump, and that's what really needs to be named. And that's why I appreciate, this program, David, because you are able and willing as a host to have conversations with Howie Klein about particular races. And I got to say, I just can't not say, as a Texan, go Cisneros, go, right? Cuellar is a corporate Democrat of the worst order. The one thing that the one critique I have about Howie Klein is he didn't paint a bad enough picture of just how disgusting Henry Cuellar is. He may have a D next to his name, but he is an absolute corporate whore. It's not just around choice, which is absolutely true, but in every way. Well,
Jessica Cisneros promises that she would vote to eliminate ICE.
Yes,
there you
exactly.
go.
What we have is a clear and unequivocal choice between a true progressive and the corporate shills of the neoliberal Democratic Party. And it's worth pointing out that Pelosi is campaigning hard for Cuellar, right? This is one of those gut check, which side are you on moments in this election. So go, Jessica, go. Again, I'm not a Democrat. I'm a Green and proud of it. But whenever I see a candidate like Jessica Cisneros standing up against the neoliberals, I say, go, girl, go, or go, man, go, or go, non-binary person, go. Whatever the right pronoun is, that candidate is the real deal. And I don't fetishize elections, but I also engage in them. And that's why we have to be clear that in the election that's coming up, it is absolutely critical that either Donald Trump or DeSantis, it looks pretty clear that that's who it's going to be, one of the others, right? But what I'm getting at is we have to unelect or we have to defeat fascism at the ballot box without being told by the neoliberal Democrats what the contours of the movement actually are, right? It's a delicate thing to watch, but I am willing to engage it to say, defeat fascism and neoliberalism. Neoliberalism literally creates the conditions by which fascists are able to flourish. And the last thing I'll say is this: we have to be clear about something, my friends, and that is the leadership of the Democratic Party, the neoliberal true leadership, for all their rhetoric, they would rather see Trump in office than Bernie Sanders as president. And that is where the real, the gloves have to come off. We have to have clarity. We have to have courage. And we have to understand that we are fighting an enemy. And the enemy, they are fascists. And the neoliberals are our enemies too. They are not our friends, right? Are neoliberals better than the fascists? Well, of course. It's not as acute. It's not as horrible. But are they good? No.